Welcome to This Week I'm Learning, the podcast where the hosts are learned and the topics are discerned. I was forced to say that by these bastards. This is Season 2, Episode 5, 35 overall, recorded February 21st, 2021. And I'm your host, Brandon Vader, and apparently I'm not allowed to write the intro this week because of how terrible last week was. It was a quote from Star Trek, which, oddly enough, this is an episode that's kind of going to be about quotes and formative memories from our childhood, and I might actually get to express myself a little bit on this episode as far as the Star Trek reference.
Sweaty, hairy balls of...
I said, are we bringing back TWIL after hours?
Nobody said balls. Nobody said balls.
No.
It's implied.
No, you thought balls. I am not responsible or liable for the thoughts in your head.
Hairy sacks.
We all have hair, right? And we are all sacks of mostly water. Hairy sacks.
I'm not a sack.
I'm going to institute another week of probation for bringing it up.
I don't know if I could even respond. I'm so offended. The first time I've ever been offended on this show is right now. Actually, last week.
It's the second time he's offended. It's even worse now.
I mean, come on, Seeker. You and I are the two hairiest ones on this channel.
Yes, and I still feel attacked by that. I'm just kidding.
I'm strangely okay with this.
I was trying to gauge what Charlie's face expression was.
If we were truly evolved, we wouldn't have that shit anywhere. That's all I'm saying.
Enjoy
we would
life
not have
without
hair.
eyebrows.
Naked apes. Just naked apes.
Okay, I need my fur to handle the Colorado winters.
No, that's what they make
Honestly,
jacket for.
If I could be shaved smooth with the way Arizona is in the summertime, I totally would do it. Like, just...
That was almost Guinness out the nose, and you're son
just
of a
glistening and smooth.
smooth.
Like,
Oh,
you nowhere. Everywhere, no hair.
You need the shampoo from Ready Player One.
Oh, shit, yeah. It'd be a lot easier than... Razors are hard to get into them nooks and crannies, if you will. This might be a formative memory for you guys.
Oh, I'm going to need formative therapy after this.
So, yeah, back to the actual intro. I am Brandon Vader, also known as Dracanis Vader, also known as Captain Drac. Yeah. Down below me is Psychonitris, also known as Cody Stratman, also known as Zito Valder. Over that direction, Charlie Stifler, also known as Mjolnir. Mjolnir everywhere, just spelled incorrectly.
So I always get it, and so I don't have to have fucking multiple gamer tags like you two.
I have one that I created when I was
12. You have 3.
And it's
You have
very
3.
apparent. And then I have one that I keep for nostalgia's sake, and then I have one that's like a RP one because I don't know, I thought an X and a V sounded cool together.
Unfortunately,
don't get me wrong.
Mine's super common.
I have one gamer tag, and I have several, we'll call them tune names for RPG characters. Like Asteris is one, and Corvus Corax is another one. But I'm always Milnor. That's always the player playing the character.
Yeah.
Inside of a simulation.
It's true.
Just had to go there.
Yeah, fine.
Down that direction, Seeker4761. The amount of times I am going to bring up that we are all sacks of mostly water.
God damn it,
all right.
you can.
Colton, you have to write the intro next week now because Brandon's not allowed.
We will have a new host next time, too.
This will be Brandon's last episode.
Don't worry, I'll stream bomb. It's all good.
We will mail you a check, my friend. It might be less than the
For 2
postage
cents?
on the stamp, but it will be a check.
You may have to donate to make that check happen, but it'll happen. I like how 3 of us take a drink with our awesome gotcha moment there. Snaps.
It's a back scratcher.
Okay. I was thinking it was a magnet because the
Yeah.
last thing that I had that telescoped like that was the little mechanic magnet.
It seemed like
Do,
he was.
do you know how we know
Anyway.
you're a nerd? Because he had a magnet on a stick.
Unfortunately,
It's not
we
Yeah.
might all qualify in some
Yeah.
level.
No, I'm not a nerd. I'm a geek. There's a difference.
Nerds
There's a
make
geek,
more money.
and I am a nerd. Bookworm
Geeks-
and I'm studious, from my
geeks
cerebral
have game.
cortex to my gluteus.
I knew it. I knew
Geeks get the girl. Nerds don't.
Anyway, let's get on to fun topics. Fun topics. Yes. Yeah, so again, this is going to kind of be an episode about like formative memories and media that, helped make us who we are. So,
In the heart, right
it's,
there.
It's a
In the heart.
multiple of 5,
the-
therefore it is a discussion episode. It's something that we are
Yes.
starting, revisiting, I should say.
rehashing.
Continuing.
Yeah.
Yes. We have multiples of 5. We have multiples of 12. We have seasons. It's really clear. It's
We're-
really clear. Concise.
Crystal clear.
Yeah.
We know exactly what's going on at all times. We're professionals.
We're never like waiting till the last minute to get this shit done.
We definitely didn't have 2 phone conversations in the last hour saying, "What the fuck were we doing tonight?"
Oh, fuck, we have to record tonight? Oh no. Oh no.
Seat of
What are we
pants.
doing
I am
again?
flying.
Mm-hmm. Well, since we normally start off with Cody, I say we continue to start off with Cody. Cody.
Just
Radical.
I thought you were actually going to go the opposite way like you do on my ranty episodes, but that's okay.
No, this
Let's
isn't a
just do
ranty
round robin.
episode, so it's
Just
okay.
You
popcorn
don't
it.
know that yet.
This is an unstructured, structured intervention
True.
for Brandon. But he doesn't know that yet.
Brandon, we are here because we care about you.
You
Not
don't,
everything
otherwise
is
there
a
would
ball
be a
sack.
sign hanging somewhere.
There is a hanging.
Sign.
Yeah,
Sign
like How I Met
hanging.
Your Mother. Come on. Get on
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
the... Yeah, gotta have
No, I think I'm lost.
That's
He's just
that's a
like,
D
do
minus
I
show
have
if you
an
ask me.
XSplit background for
Yeah,
intervention?
I never really liked How I Met Your Mother.
You're wrong.
What?
You're wrong.
I personally did not like it that much.
Oh, okay.
That might
we'll
be an
visit that
interesting-
when
We'll,
you get
we'll
to
get
the
into that.
definitive
We'll get into that.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm a fan of the slap bet, and I've definitely partook in a slap bet before. But, it's just not my thing.
I mean, it's okay to say I don't like season 5 onward, but to say I don't like How I Met Your Mother, that's a bit much. That's like his intro. Yes, or last week.
Oh.
no, it's not nearly that
Got him.
egregious.
All right, let's
It
get.
hurts right here.
So my
Reform
first
that heart.
formative memory was kind of a sad one, actually, and it's the reason why I don't like sun at a certain angle. Like I remember being very alone at the ranch and just we're gonna get into some like psychology and shit.
I'm not drunk enough.
Yeah. No, and I remember being there and having the sun like glisten through the windows of the lodge at the ranch and just having this like painful alone feeling and never wanting to feel like that again. So that was I was debating whether to consider that, but I was actually that was a very powerful like that memory to me was so powerful that an entire spectrum of sunlight I can't deal with now. So yeah, I would call it a formative memory.
Was that
kind of the
lodge
definition,
in
yeah.
Alaska or was it in
Yeah.
Gunnison?
Yeah, it's the ranch. So when I was young, I grew up on a ranch in Alaska. My parents were both very busy, so a lot of times, I'd be kind of left alone in the lodge, and it was an interesting childhood because, I had the freedom to roam around everywhere, and so I had more freedom than a lot of kids my age. but at the same time, it was like, yeah, because we lived an hour away from the closest town, it was very isolating, I would say.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a little bit different than I'm sure most children grow up. But that was one of my formative memories. Then another one was explaining how my middle name, who the person was that my middle name is named after, which was a guy that screwed a one-armed man out of building a house. So, realizing I never wanted to be like that guy. I'm just trying
What
to
is
make
your middle
Charlie
name?
make weird face expressions.
What is your middle name?
No, so apparently, my dad's uncle Ray, had some property, or ranch or something, and had this guy who had one arm work for him, and the guy, basically worked to, have his own piece of property from my dad's uncle, and he wound up building a house. Then finally, when the house was done, my dad's uncle said, "Oh, well, your property's not there. Your property's over there. Thank you for the house." Yeah. And me realizing
What?
after that story, I want nothing to do with this person. So it's been in the back of my mind to not be evil and screw people over. And then
Wow.
another formative quote for me was the opposite of what I'm doing now. It was my mom's ex-boyfriend, Jim Graham, that said, "You don't learn anything by talking," which is true.
Yeah.
That's true.
I mean, you learn things by asking, questions, but not by actually talking, not by making noise. And then the next formative memory was actually, Brandon and Colton will know this person, Jason Swenson, saying,
Jason.
"Pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered," was a next quote for me. So it basically talking like, if you have a good thing, don't try and get as much as possible out of it. To, take a little bit.
Greedy.
Rather, yeah, don't be greedy. And then, so I have these moments in my life that I do. I'm gonna get called a nerd, but I do quick saves. So I kind of like feel the moment around me, and then I just embody that moment, and then just like remember that feeling. And I have quick saves like from when I was 5, when I was 10, when I was or actually 8, not 10, and then when I was 25, and then one probably a few weeks ago. It's just a weird thing that I do. So I don't know if I'd call them formative, but it's just interesting to me. And then my final, like, really formative memory was sitting on the plane from Bangkok to Phuket and trying to figure out why societally Thailand was the way that it was and was a much happier place than the US. And it broke me so much trying to figure that out. So, and I think we try to steer clear of politics and religion, but I can't describe this moment without describing that. And I think it's because Thailand was a Buddhist-based society, was what I came up with in my head. I was going through that. So that
I would almost say that it has less to do with it being Buddhist, that it's monotheistic. It's got one predominant, pervasive religion.
It's not that it's that. It really. Actually,
What I'm saying is there's a lot of Buddhist countries that are not as good as Thailand.
true. And I guess, Vietnam I didn't get the same feeling out of. But that's a different Buddhist sect. So that's the I can't pronounce. So Thailand's Theravada, Vietnam's Mahanama or Mahanama starts with an M.
Lightly researched TWIL.
Yeah. But it's again, it's hard for me to explain, but this was realizing this, like, in a way broke me the same way that the map at Seoul broke my mom. So and I have to explain that when you're told from birth that the United States is the best, most technologically advanced country in the world, and then you travel to a country where when you go through immigration, the little gates go swoosh, swoosh, and then you put your luggage and stuff on for their equivalent of their TSA for inspection, and it's just an automated belt system that just goes like buckets magically appear at the beginning of it via silent conveyor and silently roll out, and then you hear swish swish as you go through the gate, and then they go, yep, you're good, go through. And then you arrive in this majestic atrium of foresty delight that is Terminal 2 at Incheon, only to see this map, multilingual touchscreen map that is just amazing, that can break a person. And then your son tells you to go to use the toilet because you're in Asia, and you must. If you have never been to Asia and you're from the US, you must go to the bathroom as soon as you get off the plane in Asia. It is absolutely a must.
Yeah, I do recommend people continue to go to the bathroom, yes.
See, normally I'd make a joke, but that's kind of a formative experience for me, actually, on some level. And,
No joke.
It changes a man.
It changes a man.
The bathroom at Icon CM.
Oh, I could live there. Hell of a good time.
Well, I think that's a good segue into Colton's formative memories.
Well, my formative memories are not as deep and meaningful, so I appreciate you sharing, Cody. That was nice.
I will actually, because I think I know where you're going, I'm going to disagree with you on that point. I think they're just as deep and just as meaningful.
Yeah, no, they are.
They just come from a completely different direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can have...
Mine tend to be, I guess the way I'll put it mine tend to be a bit more happy formative memories in my case. If you go with my earliest memory, if we're going to go off of that, just earliest memory in general, used to live in a city called Canyon City in Colorado before I grew up in Gunnison, but for a little while my family lived there, and I remember it was super cold and a lot of snow fell, and for some reason I really wanted to go outside to play in the snow, but I couldn't find my ugly ass horrible little yellow coat. I remember to this day that color, ugly. Like if I saw it today, I'd probably burn it. It's so fucking ugly. And my mom, I was trying to go outside anyway because I'm I want to go play and make a goddamn snowman. I didn't say those words, but somewhere in my head, I was cursing those words. I just didn't have the ability to actually make those words yet. And my mom was grabbing me. It's no, you can't go outside. You have to find your yellow coat. And I'm no. And then from there, the memory kind of peters out like those type of memories do. For some reason, that's my earliest memory. I don't know why. It's not a bad memory. It's not a good memory. It's just a memory.
It's got some bad, some good.
Memories.
Memories. If we're going off of quotes, probably the most formative quote for me is by, I'm drawing a blank on his goddamn name, Emerson. Ralph Waldo Emerson. Jeez. And it's basically, if it is dark enough, you can see the stars. And I remember reading that quote. I think I was in 5th grade or 6th grade, something like that. And I might not be. It's Emerson, I'm pretty sure. Ralph
Yes.
Waldo. Yeah, something like that. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter who said it. The quote's the important part. And when I read that, I was starting to get into. I was really into weather at that point, and after that, I actually started to expand my horizons and started getting into like astronomy and the stars and the planets and all that stuff. And for whatever reason, that quote came into my life right at that point. And anytime I'm feeling down or something's not going the way I feel it should, I do tend to think about that particular quote. And at the very least, there's still, I try to look at things in a semi-positive light. So yeah, pretty formative memory for me. I remember, I think it was on a video game magazine or something like that. For some reason, it was in there, and I was like, "That's a good quote." So, the other big quote for me is kind of, it has to do with my background. I don't know if you guys know. I know Charlie knows since he said it earlier. It's actually from the series Avatar: The Last Airbender. And have you guys, I know Charlie has, but the other two, have you guys heard of that particular series?
I have only
I've
heard of
watched
it
the first little.
and know that there's a bald guy in it.
Aang.
Aang.
Yep, I didn't know his name until just
Like,
now.
Now that I think about it, Cody, you would really like this show. You should really get into it. It's got Eastern philosophies. It's still anime-ish, but it comes from a place of like Eastern philosophies, but still with like like a Western style-ish. But it's very good.
It is probably my second favorite cartoon of all time.
And for me, it is the best series, best TV show I have ever seen. Like, it to me, that show is the epitome of what happens when the creators are doing what they love. They respect their audience enough to push the envelope, because again, this is a children's show on Nickelodeon, so it's not like its audience is particularly old, but the themes are very, very mature. There's war, there's death, there's sacrifice, there's honor, there's all these very mature themes. And it was right around 13, 14 is when I really got into this show, because that's when it was playing. And yeah, every, like, perfectly paced, perfect characters, just a beautiful show. Cody, you really need to see it. I highly recommend it. If one thing I ever recommend to you, watch this show. But there's a scene involving a particular character named Zuko. And going with my undying love of the show, it's not as super important to this, but it's important to me, which, yeah, the spoilers. So Zuko is the banished prince, and his character arc is arguably perfect. If you ever read any or listen to any like YouTube, I guess video essays on this type of on character arcs, almost always Zuko, this particular character, will show up on a good portion of them. The ultimate redemption arc, so on and so forth. Spoiler a little bit. But in the episode Zuko Alone, basically at this point, Zuko's at a point where he is lost. He doesn't know what he's doing. He has no mentor at this point. He's just in the ether, basically, as a lot of us have been as a teenager. Which, I mean, we've all been there, and even as an adult or as a child, everyone's been at points of their life where they feel like they're rudderless, like they're just floating in a sea of chaotic energy and misery. But the point of this particular episode is the character Zuko essentially learns who he is, and he is having flashbacks to his life and his formative memories, ironically, some of them. But in one of them, his is back to his mother, and his mother says, "Remember this, Zuko. No matter how many things may seem to change, never forget who you are." And right after Zuko all of a sudden is able to see clearly, even though he's still lost, he knows who he is, at least at his core. And even to this day, like I'll just randomly think of that quote and I will smile. I remember that entire media. I think of that entire series and what it means to me from when I was at that time as a teenager growing up, trying to figure out the world, to when I was on my own, still kind of lost, trying to figure things out, even till now where things are clearer, but it's still nice to have that, I would call the form of memory in this case. It's basically an anchor of how I try to live and at least know who I am on the inside. Blah, blah, blah. Know yourself, be positive, so on and so forth. So that's super important to me. Last one. Have you guys ever heard of the pale blue dot? It's an astronomy thing.
Carl Sagan.
Yes.
So basically there's a photo, which is, I think it's considered the farthest away picture of Earth that was ever taken. And maybe Charlie can clarify this.
By humans.
By humans, you're right. The farthest we know of.
Not devices.
Yeah.
Not remote control, but actual,
Yeah, we're a
astronaut holding a camera.
No, not this one. This is Voyager 1.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so basically, for whatever reason, NASA scientists
Put an astronaut on that?
No.
I thought we were talking about the
No, you're talking
Earth
about
rising over the moon.
the blue marble. That's the blue marble, I think.
Yeah,
That's another
sorry.
good one. But no, this one's essentially, it's not even a very pretty picture if you really think about it. It's basically, I think it's Voyager 1. They turned the spacecraft around to shoot a picture of Earth, and it was shot through like Saturn's rings or something like that. And it's basically Earth looks like a pale, like it looks like a little dot, a pale blue dot. It's a mote of dust on a sunbeam, which is part of the quote. And if ever I start feeling a little bit too full of myself, or when the world starts to feel a bit like when humans start to feel a little bit full of themselves, I like to think of the quote. And this is kind of a paraphrase because there's hundreds of different paraphrases. The original quote by Carl Sagan, famous astronomer, is like 3 paragraphs long. So it's not like I memorized the whole damn quote. But I like to think of the paraphrase of basically this is what he's saying. Look at this dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it is everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives. Every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there, on a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam. In our obscurity, in all this vastness, there is no hint that help will come from elsewhere to save us from ourselves. And I butchered it, but basically it's saying, this is all we have. There may be other worlds, there may be other in the future, there may be other life forms, but as of now, this is all we have. The planet is all humanity has. That's the only thing we have to give to the following generations, and so on and so forth. So
don't fuck it up.
Don't fuck it up. That's kind of what he's saying in terms of a paraphrase, a paraphrase of the paraphrase. So I would like to think if people thought a little more long term and a little more, I guess, expand their imaginations a little bit, maybe we could solve some of these bigger problems that we are dealing with, that really humanity has dealt with since we've become sentient. But
that's interesting because
I like to think so.
That could also put a lot of stress on a person. Like thinking that you are responsible for the well-being of everyone. It would be another way of taking that. But
right.
It's interesting because you could take that
thinking
multiple ways.
Thinking about the quote, by thinking it like that, at least in my opinion, it goes kind of with the problem of what humanity is dealing with, the selfishness. Because yes, we all have a responsibility, but it's to each other, and everyone else is also responsible to you. It's not selfish to want to protect everybody, to protect the planet, because you're not in it alone. And that's, I think, what the pale blue dot picture is, well, at least the quote, and combined with the pale blue dot is supposed to say. Like, all the crap that we've ever deal with, it's minuscule. It's simple. In the end, it's really quite easy to to deal with
Well-
compared to the vastness of space.
And what it really means is nothing we do will ever change the
universe,
galaxy,
Yeah.
the universe. No matter what we do, no matter how much we screw up our planet, ourselves, each other, like in the blink of an eye, the cosmos will not notice our presence or departure.
It's an unfeeling cosmos, at least right now. At least as far as we understand it. So,
Yeah, wait till we figure out that the universe is actually a living organism. Well,
or in a simulation or all sorts of other weird shit. Our tiny little primate naked ballsack brains could not possibly deal with that. Oh, sorry. Did I reference something from a previous episode? I'm sorry, Brandon.
excuse me a moment. Pardon me.
No ball. I said nothing about ball.
Implied. It is implied.
No,
It was an
it
implied
wasn't.
ball sack.
When do you
It was an
It was
implied
not.
ball sack.
When do you use the word sack? You're not a mailman.
But his
Sorry,
dad
Mom.
is. Gotcha.
Well, Charlie, tell us about your formative quotes, media experiences, blah blah blah, so forth.
My first, you kind of triggered this one by making me think about my first memory, actually. So my first memory is, I think I've got it. I think it's November 9th, 1989, not to be like overly precise. But my first memory that I still have is watching on TV as the Berlin Wall fell. I was three and like 3/4. I was 4 months short of my 4th birthday. And I remember watching Tom Brokaw broadcast the fall of the Berlin Wall.
Mr.
And-
Gorbachev.
Yeah, that was a little bit before that. Tear down this wall, but as far as formative goes, I feel like walls, and this is more political than normal, but walls are completely illogical and meaningless. You're literally constructing something on top of an imaginary line. All borders are imaginary lines. They're artificial constructs that we decide, this is my land, this is your land, get the fuck over there, I'm going to be the fuck over here. We, as a group, decide what happens on this land. You don't get to make that decision because you're over there in that land. And we just need to fucking figure it out that we're all human and we all need to agree on shit. And we all need to agree to disagree on shit. And we have to find the balance where, your thought process that is intolerable and immoral and you'll never allow it to happen, it has to have a boundary where my choices exist. And vice versa. My choices have to have a boundary where your choices exist. Which is very libertarian, don't get me wrong. I get it, Cody. But I'm much more collective in my thoughts process, where it's not just, well, fuck all of you, it's about me, and I don't want to be restricted because of your thought process. That's nice, go to the moon. If you want to be on your own, go to the moon. That's a very, libertarians, I think, would love to have their own little colony on an island and be left the fuck alone. But they can't.
They've tried
because,
that.
Yeah, it didn't work out well.
Don't work.
Well,
It never ends well.
In several instances, the Navy came and said you can't do that. Of course,
Right,
that was
precisely.
a bad. There was an incident off the coast of Phuket where they tried to do that, and that was kind of ill thought out.
Yeah. Oh, you mean you can put all my political enemies in one place and there's no other witnesses? Oh, shocking. What happened to them? Oh, must have been a tidal wave.
No.
Terrible.
No, it was basically the Navy came and said no, you can't do that, and I forget if they were arrested or just deported.
Hmm.
They weren't
They're
gunned
lucky they
down
weren't
or
killed.
anything. No.
They are lucky they weren't killed. So that's my first formative memory. And one of my quotes that I had kind of pinned together is an interpretation of another Carl Sagan quote, which is "We are star stuff." And people people sometimes use that to make me feel incredibly small. Like one of the intentions of it is that
Mm.
the atoms that you are made of were forged in the fire of a dead sun, and you know that is to say you are a byproduct of a star. And people say, "Wow, that makes me sound really small and insignificant." And like, no, that makes me feel really fucking big, actually.
Yeah, but it
Um,
also
It's
would say that
connective.
yeah,
connected. We are everyone.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Well, and we're all unique.
It, that's interesting that you talk about too with your last quote that everybody, y- we're all human. We want that's something that I'm sure you've learned in your travels that I've learned in mine. It's like there there are certain things that like universally everybody laughs at, when you watch certain YouTubers, you know,
yeah.
car guys everywhere will bond over cars.
Yeah,
It's
going with Charlie's thing about Stardust, it's our sames are way more than our differences. I mean,
Oh yeah.
we're
yeah.
more alike than we're different. I mean, and somewhere along the
There's
lines we forgot that as a
you
species.
know the moniker that a mouse shares 98% of its DNA with humans. That that's like, wow, that's crazy that mice are so close to us. What does that tell you about us, though? That means we're microscopically separated. And Brandon's dead. Did Brandon just die? Did
he
someone
he
just kill
came back,
Brandon?
I
Dr.
think
Fox, apparently.
he had to take a
There we
minute to
That
go.
was
cry.
very weird.
He's back.
It's okay, Brandon. We're here for you.
Dr. Flox. Dr. Flox looked after you. Don't worry.
Oh, the wonders of
Yes.
technology.
Um, let's see. So there's a couple quotes. There's a lot of speeches by captains. You know, whether it's Captain Ahab or whether it's Captain Dylan Hunt of the starship Andromeda, or any number of the captains of the Enterprise, or Luke's and Yoda's and Ben Solo's and whatnot. Um, but I think this is going to be completely out of left field. I think one of my favorite quotes is actually President Bartlett, Jed Bartlett. Anyone know what series that's from?
Jed. That sounds familiar.
That is the
Only be-
West
Sounds
Wing.
familiar.
Yeah, only because you told me earlier today.
Yep, the West Wing. Um, and he's basically, so there is this fictional character of a doctor so and so radio personality. She's got a doctorate in English literature, and she kind of misrepresents herself as having some sort of advanced degree in theology, psychology, or human pathology, and she basically uses scripture to promote anti-homosexual modalities. Like she calls, or he says, you call abomination or homosexuality an abomination, and she's like, no, I don't. The Bible does. Leviticus 18:12, and he then goes on to mock her by naming, so many other passages. Like, my daughter Zoe is a sophomore at Georgetown. She always cleared the table when it was her turn. She's a 3.0 student. The Bible clearly says I can sell her into slavery. What's a good price I can get for her? And while you're thinking about that, it very clearly says that my brother should be put to death for planting crops next to each other, or two different crops next to each other. Can I burn my mother at the stake in a small family gathering, or do I need to do it in a large gathering for wearing fabrics that are made of or clothing that is made of two fabrics? That whole basically mocking her justification using a book that was written 2,500 years ago for modern issues, and that's more poignant on the religion topic. But I actually extrapolate that and use that as horizontal thought process for the Declaration of Independence. Like, the core idea of the Declaration of Independence holds. It does. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, except for they didn't really like acknowledge that for 150 more years, 200 more years. You know, no big deal. When the Bill of Rights was written, you know, the only weapons that were available, as far as firearms were aware, were single-shot, muzzle-loaded muskets. There was no concept of semi-automatic. There was no concept of fully automatic. There was no concept of military grade versus civilian grade, because the weapons were ubiquitous. The same gun you used to hunt was the same gun the army carried to fight wars. So it made sense for those people to carry to have weapons. And there was also this at the formation of the country that we were not thinking about a standing army. We were thinking about having well-regulated militias, not a federal standing army, not a British Royal Army equivalent. It really wasn't until we were forced to defend ourselves again and again, circa War of 1812 and forward, that we really formed a federal army, which really negates the second part of the Second Amendment, that the right to bear arms should not be infringed by Congress and will be used to form a well-regulated militia. The point of it is not that everyone should be able to have assault rifles or that they should have military equivalent weaponry. It's that they should have a reasonable amount of defense. Not and use that for the benefit of the entire society, not for individual. That's where I take it. And so that speech kind of really spurred a lot of my well-developed, although probably misguided, thoughts on government and religion. And then probably my last one I'm going to take from Starship Troopers. And it was the opening kind of couple minutes of the movie where they're all in high school still. And they're talking about what you have to do to earn citizenship in that culture, in that society at the time, in the sci-fi setting. And that there is two stratified classes of person in the society, a citizen and a non-citizen. And basically, if I was emperor of the world, I would be using that as a very similar model for how I'd want government and society to be built. Because fundamentally, the only way you earn citizenship is through service. Now, obviously in the sci-fi book, the only way to earn service was to serve in the military, but I have a laundry list of ways you can serve, whether it's police, fire, EMS, a janitor at a public school, a teacher, as much of a joke as this is, a lawyer. And you do service to society, and you earn your citizenship in X amount of time. And only citizens have the right to vote, have the right to hold office, and there is no roadblock for your service other than you have to sign up and do it yourself. Obviously, there's the ADA kind of Americans with Disabilities Act. Not everyone's going to have the capacity to serve, but at that point, do they deserve the right to vote? If they're not physically or mentally capable of bettering society, do they have the right to choose what society does? That's a completely different conversation. And I actually fall kind of more towards if they can't serve, that they default to some sort of citizen with an asterisk, rather than a no citizen. And yeah, so very odd references and very odd formative memories, but
I mean, it's interesting. Yeah. It gives you a piece of who you are and who you've become.
That's
fundamentally, if you don't serve society, in my opinion, you don't give a fuck about it enough to really, what percentage of the United States doesn't vote? Over half of the adults that are of legal age and are competent to vote don't vote every time. And, there's about 1/3 of the voting age electorate is a Democrat, and about 1/3 of the voting age electorate is Republican, and the other third is undecided, independent, or doesn't vote, isn't involved. And I really don't think that we would have the two-party bullshit that we have if the other third just stood up and said, "Fuck you two,"
There,
and
yeah.
split it into three and really make it power sharing and not just, "Oh well, we've got 51 Republicans, so fuck you Democrats."
Well, I would even simplify it. I think if there was more activity, just be involvement in the entire process, there'd be more, I don't want to say pride, but there would be almost a, not a sunk cost, it's not the word, but there's investment. There's an investment
Yeah,
in your society, your future.
yeah, you're vested in it. Yeah,
Yeah, you're invested in your fellow human, your fellow, well, in this case, fellow American. So I at the very least, a increase in participation, whether it's, I mean, even just voting, whatever. I could only see that as a positive. In, I can't think of a negative, honestly.
yeah.
At least
Yeah.
in that sense.
So dovetailing off of that,
Mm-hmm.
so that kind of reminded me of one of a series of books I have been reading. Yeah, that I think some of you guys have read. Have you guys? I know Cody has. Spinward Fringe.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Love that
Okay.
series.
Right, no.
Series.
Oh yeah, fantastic.
Actually, it was you who got me into that, Brandon.
Yeah.
Yes.
We
And
all,
Cody.
all of that to Brandon, actually.
Thanks. I feel so included.
Read it.
It was a Gunnison thing. You were, I mean, you were.
You weren't
Gunnison,
here.
but you weren't
Sorry.
there at that time.
It's
I'm
fine.
sorry.
It's
Recommend it now, Brandon. Recommend it now.
It's a fantastic book series. It's actually in our OneNote of suggested books.
Am I in that one note? Is it
You're
in
part of that.
TWIL?
No,
No,
it's
it's
not
in
Dark Horizon.
Dark Horizon.
Yep. Our
we do need to
gaming-
be better
Alright.
about that.
Yep.
If we had a clan,
But,
that's what our clan is.
Yeah.
Gaming clan.
So in that book,
Yeah, not
uh,
okay. No.
yeah, no K's in our clan. Sorry. So getting back on topic, you were talking about how, you earn citizenship in
Yeah.
Starship Troopers. So the same thing kind of happens in this book series with the new form of government that, without divulging too many details, kind of pops up after an apocalypse or apocalyptic style event, except on a galactic scale. But additionally, not only do you have like citizens and non-citizens, you also, like, in order to vote even as a citizen, you have to be able to demonstrate a certain amount of comprehension of the topic. Which I really like. I like that idea because if you don't understand the topic, you shouldn't be voting on it. If you don't understand how it's going to impact you and your fellow people, why are you voting on it? So, yeah, exactly. Well, I'm a Democrat, or I'm a Republican, or I'm a liberal, or I'm a this, or I'm a that. So that's how I'm going to vote. I'm going to vote down the line exactly how my party says that I should vote. I don't feel that that should be enough to warrant your vote as counting. You should know the topic. And the problem would be trying to, like, in current, if we were to try and implement that in current times, trying to show that, basically you would have to show up, take a test, have your test graded, and then you would get to go to the booth and only be presented with the options that you passed the test
And
on.
we all know how well tests actually show comprehension too.
And not only that, but
Exactly.
we might have already fucked that up in history with poll tests. Yeah,
Yep.
oops.
Yeah. But I like that idea, and the way they do it in the book is a lot more streamlined. It's almost based off of their version of Facebook and how it's called Crewcast, and basically it can tell a lot about what you're doing, what you're researching, what you've looked up, how much time you've spent, looking at topics and
So-
yeah, but there's also like general use AI and like all of these other high technologically advanced
I was thinking we were
concepts.
ragging on Microsoft 365 in the last episode. Now you're sponsoring them.
I mean,
Yep.
He's so deep.
it's
Yeah.
hard to. I mean, with current technology, it's bad because it doesn't understand enough of what's
Nuance.
going on. Exactly.
Nuance.
So many nuances, and you would actually need a honest to God like general AI in order to be able to distinguish somebody's productivity based on like emails and text messages and calls inside of a single outlet of
Sorry, I'm getting
software.
you off topic too. So.
It's all right. But yeah, that made me really think harder, like reading that book and looking at how they thought about all of the politics and the happenings behind scenes kind of really made me think about our political process and like how maybe the elections and voting that I had participated in prior to that may not have been as critically thought out as I wanted it to be. Looking at that book. So that book has changed how I vote, how I look at politics, how I look at, even something as simple as, something comes in through my email going, hey, should we do this or that? And it's like, well, let's find a little bit more out about that before I say whether we're going to do one thing or the other. It's made me a more thoughtful decision maker.
So
almost.
when you vote, and I'm not trying to divulge what you vote, but
Yeah.
do you abstain from questions that you don't know enough about now?
I look very closely at the ballots beforehand
Okay, so
because
you take
they
the
send
time to
out the
study.
issues in advance.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, there
love
wasn't
that book.
any questions on this past poll that I was uncertain of enough to the point where I decided to abstain. But 4 years ago, I did. There was one question on there that I didn't fully understand, and I couldn't really find an answer that wasn't heavily skewed one lean or the other. And I wasn't confident enough in what a no or what a yes would do to vote on that issue. But yeah. So that was dovetailing off of that. My first memory I have, Wakanda forever. Yeah. Colton.
Oh,
My
that's not
first
Wakanda.
memory.
It's a dove.
That's just
That is
supposed to be a
Wakanda.
dove.
supposed to be a dove.
Oh.
It's
It's
an
a
eagle.
flappy. It flaps.
Flappy. Yeah, that's Wakanda.
Okay.
Do that. Oh, did you-
Oh, you're right. That is Wakanda. Okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've watched those movies.
Oh,
Those
you
were
do.
not important movies to my development.
well, I mean, yeah.
They also happened way too late for development. But
You can always
Good
learn.
movies.
either way.
Yeah, the ship has sailed on that one there, buddy.
You can always learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
good point.
my first memory is sitting in my dad's lap in front of our Commodore 64, watching him write the basic code in from a book so that we could play. I can't remember if it was Galaga or Galaxia. I remember him, I was probably like 2 or 3, like just kind of at the point where I was talking and kind of remembering things.
So you were about 5'5", 5'10".
Yeah, somewhere into there. I mean, it was a
It's a
little
small
awkward
little
sitting
thing.
on his lap, but no. I remember him kind of like talking about like, oh yeah, and this is, this number that I'm putting in here controls how many lives we have, and I'm gonna bump that number up a little bit so that you can play some. And then just kind of working through this code, and that's one of the first. That's like a very formative memory, and that is why I am the nerd that I am today, because I find computers just fascinating. That with with just changing one little number, you can make so much more things happen with it. So that's like my first formative memory.
Well, it's a good
Yeah,
thing
if
you
you
don't
just-
have
if you
any
just-
interest in technology anymore.
Right.
Right?
I don't
Like,
see that
all
as
you,
a
all you
formative.
really need to change, like really change, the world is move a decimal point, just a couple places to the right. That's all you need.
Rick and Morty. Change a 1 to
Rick
a
and
0.
Morty's a good one too. Yeah. But as far as quotes, I do want to talk about the quote that I said last week that nobody got. Because I am going to beat that horse.
Yeah.
Even if it is
I bet you
dead.
would.
I'm calling PETA because you said you beat a horse.
He didn't say
God.
the word often.
Sacks
so
and horses.
we're
What's wrong with you,
slightly
Brandon? You've
okay.
changed. You've changed.
Oh,
You're,
yeah.
You're a monster.
I'm absolutely terrible.
Yes, you are.
So, no. In the episode of Star Trek Next Generation, Season 1, Episode 18, it's entitled Home Soil. It's about this terraforming operation that's happening on this supposedly like dead silicon dust world. And some of the little silicon flakes are actually sentient-ish. And like once they get together enough, and there's all sorts of stuff, it's actually a really good episode. But as these little silicon flakes eventually like start compounding together and gaining intelligence, they then finally find a way to interact with the translator, universal translator. And what they say is, ugly, ugly. Sacks filled with mostly water. That's how they address the humans. And even Data is like, well, sir, that, was something like not accounting for taste or something like that. That is an accurate description of humans. You are 95% water encased in a flexible membranous material.
That's 78.
Yeah, it's 78% water.
I thought it was too, but the actual quote is 95.
Yeah.
But
Mr. Data's
yeah,
wrong.
it's closer. Yeah, he's wrong on that. But 75%. I mean, that's all I was talking about. Is, everyone sees each other as different things, but kind of going back to what Charlie and Seeker were both saying, we are more similar than we are dissimilar. Like, you get down to the base components, we are sacks of mostly water. So, I thought I was being funny, because with all of the pronoun stuff going on, I didn't want to go, ladies and gentlemen, or hello everyone, or anything like that. I wanted to bring a little bit of humor into life.
So instead, you brought male genitalia.
No, your brain brought that in.
You said
No, I'm
Harry.
pretty
I just
sure
said we
everyone
were
that will
sacks
ever
of mostly
watch that-
water.
Harry
I showed that. I
sex.
showed the episode to my
There-
wife. She's like, "Why did he call you guys ball sacks?" Like that.
Just because you
said
guys don't
Harry
know Star
sex.
Trek.
Harry
Oh,
sex.
whoa,
Problem.
whoa, no.
We're talking next
Every
generation.
episode of every season of every show that has ever aired under the title Star Trek, I have seen, and probably multiple times, with maybe exception of a couple episodes of Enterprise, because that shit was frankly painful, and I really,
Some of them.
really hate the intro song to Enterprise. Hate it.
Faith from the heart.
I hate it.
Going
So,
with something,
Okay.
something.
Quiz question. Who is that song originally by?
Oh,
I don't
I
know.
should know it.
Fuck
He's
am
a
I
British
know?
singer. He's
Bon
blonde.
Jovi.
No, British
No.
singer. Bon
He's
Jovi's
gone?
American.
Yeah, we're not
No.
halfway to anywhere.
The boss?
Out with it.
Bruce Springsteen? No, Jesus. British. Jesus.
Yeah, he's from New Jersey.
I,
Just
not
Maggie
you.
May. Anyone? No,
Just
I'm not mentioning his
I'll
name.
just
I hate
I'm
him.
just-
I hate him. I hate him with the fire of a thousand suns, and I've always hated
Who
him.
was it?
I've hated all. No, I'm not telling you. You have to look it
It's
up on
not
your own
like
now.
he's going to appear here. It's not.
No,
like...
it is, and I'm not gonna acknowledge him. No. Okay, fine.
So-
Fuck. It's Rod Stewart. Okay, I hate Rod Stewart.
Oh, yeah.
I hate
I
Rod
only
Stewart
know
so
him by
fucking much.
name.
And I've always
Yeah.
hated his music, and whenever it came on the radio, I fucking hated it. And then, you know, Star Trek has always had an orchestral opening, and it's always a really good, you know, you had the original series, which was kind of disco-fied, but it still had kind of an orchestral thing. Then you had TNG, then you had Deep Space Nine, you had Voyager, all fucking great intros, and then Enterprise. And it was a fucking Rod Stewart song. God damn it. That was terrible. And then,
Started
thank
on a low
God,
note.
the
Stayed low.
next several series have all had orchestral theme songs.
True.
So,
The
yeah.
Picard theme song is pretty good.
I love Picard. I love Discovery. I actually love Discovery's the most. Of all of the theme songs, Discovery's my favorite. I'll play it for
I
you
don't
later.
remember that one.
It's
Okay.
it's very heavy cellos.
Cello.
When I think heavy cello.
Cello,
I think
cello,
the,
cello.
The cello people
Stop
doing
it.
Star Wars off.
Yes.
I'll literally play it
That was
as
a
soon as we stop
fantastic-
recording so we don't get copyright struck.
Okay. Well, I do have another Star Trek quote
Clearly,
that is much more formative.
Sorry, I need to interject this here. Clearly, we need to have a TWIL episode that's like a Star Trek off between you two
Oh, yeah.
or something.
What do you mean?
I
You're
would
not
I
gonna
would
be
lose my
involved, Cody?
ass.
You're not going to be involved, Cody?
No, I'm Stargate. Stargate all the way.
Stargate's good.
If,
More of a
if
Star
anyone wants
Wars
to have a
guy
Stargate
myself.
off with me, yeah, we'll go.
Plurality, sir. There's
But-
no such thing as one series that's good. It's all good.
We could
Yeah,
do a
that's true.
sci-fi series.
Yeah, we could
That
star
might be an
off.
interesting one.
Someone could do Star Wars,
Star off.
Star Trek, Stargate, over there. I don't
Something
know what
else.
your favorite I don't know what your favorite star flavored series is, Colton. What is your favorite star flavored series?
Fuck, I don't know anymore.
Citizen?
I could just start.
That would definitely
not,
be
not
branded.
compared with other present company. Jesus Christ.
Anyways,
Anyway, let's get.
I'll
back
have to think
Brandon.
about that.
Sorry for that.
All right,
We'll do
Brandon.
an episode about
Brandon.
that. That would be interesting.
That's all right. That's all right. So, episode 21 of season 2. It's entitled Peak Performance, and it's where they stage a war game between the Enterprise, captained by Picard, and then I can't remember, Hathaway, I think. Yeah, the Hathaway, captained by Riker, and forcing Picard into a seemingly no-win situation. And fantastic episode. But in it is a quote from Picard: "It is possible to commit no mistakes and still lose. That's not weakness, that is life." And I
love
remember
that
watching that when I was,
I fucking
It
love
is-
that quote. That is so fucking true.
yeah. I remember watching that episode. I think I would have been 4 or 5. It was on a rerun. And me and my dad had just started watching Star Trek. And I remember watching that episode, and it's kind of, if you want to talk, what's that Pixar movie with the memories and the emotion, like people?
I didn't. The one Pixar movie I didn't see. The one thing, where
where like anger.
It's got joy, happiness,
yeah.
anger.
Inside me.
Inside me.
yeah.
Yeah.
That snippet is like a core memory, because there have been so many times in my life where I have done all of the right things and still failed, still fallen flat on my face, and it's that kind of keeps me going through the horribleness of, that low, and it gets me up out of that trough and moving forward to that next thing. Because honestly, as long as you're doing everything you can do to be a good person, to do right to those around you, that's what's important.
Yeah,
Gesundheit.
that's an interesting way to kind of tie, everybody's experience together a little bit too.
We're all just trying our best.
There is something to be said. And I know your fair share of this. As a paramedic, I encounter a lot of people having psychiatric problems. And fundamentally, it is how you approach that particular situation that changes what happens. And I'm not saying depression's a choice. Absolutely not. I think it's chemistry. It's shitty chemistry, but it's chemistry. And, the moniker that I can do everything right and still fail, so why the fuck should I even try? It is completely... If you take away the psychological problems and the depression and the cycles that modified that kind of behavior, and you boil it down to a choice, which I know depression's not a choice, and I would never assume that it is, but you have two ways of interpreting that statement, and you have the optimistic, okay, nothing I did wrong, cool, let's go at it again, and we'll just keep on going. Or, well, why the fuck should I even try if I'm going to do everything right and still fail? And there is a certain level of attitude a part of that equation.
Yep.
There's also an interesting quote by Rene Descartes, and it's, you just keep... I forgot about this until you mentioned this. You just keep pushing, I made every mistake that could be made, but I just kept pushing.
Edison.
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah, it was Edison. The light bulb. It's not that I failed 173 times to make a light bulb. It's I found 173 ways not to make a light bulb.
Yep.
Or you go with the Bruce Lee quote about the 10,000 kicks. Kind of more on the, I don't know if it's the same kind of thing, where Bruce Lee said he didn't fear the man who knew 10,000 separate kicks. He feared the man who practiced one kick 10,000 times. It's kind of encompassing at least the positive side of just keep going. Just
persistence.
Or to go with Dory, just keep swimming. Just keep swimming.
Just keep swimming.
Fish are friends, not food.
Maybe take care of each other and understand that because we're all star stuff and unique, and
maybe don't throw coffee on your assistants.
Maybe don't be a dick. The one commandment that should have been in the Bible. Don't be a dick.
There we go. John Solankowitz or Will Wheaton. Don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick.
I actually love
.org, .com, .net, .info, .biz, .gov.
.xx.
George Carlin boils down the 10 Commandments down to 2.
I love. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That is a fantastic one.
That is.
Always be truthful and faithful to the provider of thy nookie, and try not to kill the other guy unless he worships some other strange god. That's what it all boils down to.
Just be nice to each other, guys. Jesus, it's not that hard. We're all doing
one last memory to leave you all with before we start doing our outro, because we are running a little long.
It's all right. Discussion wants to.
Yeah. So, anyone who has met me in real life, typically.
For all I know, you're an AI.
Typically says that I'm really calm under pressure, have a really calm tone, and I'm just pretty mellow.
The reason why you're
not on calls with you, I can say that for certain.
Yeah. I was not always that way. I had a lot of anger issues, had a lot of anxiety and, nervous energy, and just was kind of this ball just bouncing around. And it wasn't until I started my first job as an EMT with a great man named Brian Hess.
Oh, Haas.
Haas. That I was on my first call. It was a cardiac arrest, and I was losing my shit. Because it was my first call with this new group of people. I'd been on ride-alongs, I'd been in hospitals, but it was always one of those things of, like, there were other people around. I was not a necessary hand unless somebody said, hey, you here, hold this. Or, like, my very first scene, I saw nobody was grabbing C-spine, and it's like, well, I guess I'm going to grab C-spine. But first call with Brian Hess, cardiac arrest, just, not handling the situation well. And I remember him looking at me and going, smooth is fast.
Slow is
fast
smooth.
is not smooth.
Yeah. Slow is smooth. Smooth is fast.
Yeah.
And fast is not smooth.
Yeah. And then later on, like, it didn't really sink in until later on after that call. We were sitting in his office and he was talking to me about, okay, here's some things you did well. Here's some things you didn't do well. And he kind of said, look, if you're running around doing all this stuff, you're making more steps, you're making more mess, you're making more work for yourself when you just need to take a breath, assess the situation, do what you need to do, and get through it. Running is not going to help you. Sprinting around like a chicken with your head cut off is not going to help anyone else. And he would say that smooth is fast. Fast is not smooth to me. Like, every day for the first couple weeks until it started finally clicking.
I had 2 trainees with me today on the ambulance. We ran a bunch of calls, and I said those words to each one of those ladies over the last 2 weeks at least 11 times. I say that to almost every single trainee. It is one of the lasting impressions I ever had from Haas, for sure.
Oh, yeah. And there's actually a saying above the door to our IT office as we were going out that is basically that exact sentiment. And I remember when I was in my interview looking at that sign and going, oh my God, that's like the same thing, just worded differently. And up at work, it's slow is pro. And it's something I've embodied ever since working with Haas. And it's something I've always strived to do because it is true.
That explains why I'm still waiting on that blood pressure from you.
He'll get to it.
120 over 80.
Action without thinking
Liar.
isn't helpful, I guess, is a kind of another way of looking at that, I would say.
Yeah. And then one I keep finding myself say over and over and over to my son that is another Haas witticism. Do it once, do it right. Because if you don't do it right the first time, you're going to have to find time to do it right the second time.
Another good quote. Don't ever half-ass anything. Always whole-ass one thing.
So,
yeah.
There's one thing, and it might be my own weird idiosyncrasies, is that I found that with some of those quotes, some of those ones that you just said, it put a lot of pressure on me to strive for super perfection in anything that I attempted. And which was actually... So it's how different people can take different quotes.
Yeah.
And why it's how I had to step back from that and go, it's okay to fail at something. And that is necessary.
Go back to Brandon's other quote about as long as you did everything you can do.
True.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, makes sense.
But when in doubt, change the parameters of the test and pass the Kobayashi. Wow,
That is...
Kobayashi. Wow.
Kobayashi Maru.
I can't fucking speak
Obs-
right now.
My name's
I think
Gilbert.
I'm having a
I'm
stroke.
Charlie. I know. I love Star
Kobayashi Maru, excuse me.
Trek.
Quick, put your arms out. Close your eyes.
Smack that hand.
Yep, yep.
Smack that dirty hand.
Better start the stroke protocols. Yep. So with that, I think that should give people a lot more information about us and where we come
That's who
from.
we
and
are. Like,
Explains
love us
all
as we
all
are.
the fucking bullshit.
Please don't leave us. Love us.
Now everybody runs away.
Yeah.
So alone.
These guys
Right?
are
Oh my
fucked
God,
up.
those people are
Jesus.
just too fucked up. We're just no, we're good.
So many
Don't need that in our
psychological
lives.
issues with these ones.
Jesus Christ. We're so
I got the degree in psychology for all the free therapy.
weird.
Mm.
Step in a puddle of us and you wouldn't even get your feet wet, guys. Just saying.
What the fuck? Is that another play on the ball sack of water?
No, but you ruined it.
No, actually, it's not.
That's actually from Danny Phantom, another Nickelodeon show.
Yeah.
Never watched that one. Sorry.
Oh God, if you want to talk cartoon shows,
We have
that
a whole other episode on that.
Oh, yeah. Dexter's Lab, that is what also just made me go, there is so much cool things that you could do with technology.
My number one animated series is Beast Wars. Transformers Beast Wars.
Really?
That was my favorite.
Never
Huh.
watched it.
That is not what I was expecting.
Yep,
not
number
a bad
one.
one.
Number
Oh.
two is, as mentioned before. Number three would probably be Avatar, actually.
Oh, yeah, it's going on the list. We're going to talk about these one of these days.
Okay.
Maybe that could be a
Okay.
drunk episode.
Yep.
All right, Brandon, take us home.
Tonight. Don't let
I'm already
me
home?
go.
Welcome?
Play us off,
Pardon me
Johnny.
while I get my gun, get the fuck out of my house, all the things that go after that.
Colton, where can we find you?
My name is Colton Roper. You can find me on twitch.tv/seeker4761, where I try to
The
stream.
amount of psychological issues all of us have.
That's
Accurate.
by a factor of 2,
100%.
gentlemen. Learns
Yeah.
so much. Seeker, twitch.tv/seeker4761, where I try to stream pretty regularly. Always on Tuesday, around, 7 p.m. Pacific time or Arizona time or whatever freaking time it is. Sometime in the evening.
Time
And
is
also
made up.
throughout.
It's a
Exactly.
construct.
We've had a whole thing on that too. Also a
That
contributor
was
to
my rant.
Also a contributor to the techpirate.net. Also on YouTube under Seeker4761, where I've been actually pretty consistent on my game review series
job.
so far. Going to be another one this Thursday. Check it out.
Nice.
Cody.
I am Cody Stratman, Psychonitrous, Zeta Valdare, because I am both 12 and 35. Yeah.
Don't you love doing math
You had to
now?
think about it.
Years
You ain't
are
dead
weird.
yet.
I am occasionally on YouTube. I am actually going to start putting stuff on Instagram more. I've decided that's the.
Hold
this
on,
week
I gotta
thing.
follow you. You're on
Um,
Instagram?
Yeah, strangely enough, I am.
What's your Instagram?
Psychonitrous or just Cody?
I actually forget who I am on Instagram. I might be
Oh.
Zito
Oh, good.
Valdare. I think I'm Zito Valdare on Instagram.
Yes, you are.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll post like airplane pictures or travel pictures or something.
You
stuff
have to
that
do
looks
those
like
things in order to post pictures about them.
that. Yes. Yes, I will have to do those things. And
It's true. In the future,
vaccine
yes.
Part 1 made me sleepy today, so
Yay, immune responses. I'm happy for you.
yeah. Anyway, Milner, what about you? Where
My
can we
name is
find
Charlie Stifler. I am Milnor on all of the things, all usernames. You can find me here every week. I am on YouTube at Milnor. Where is it? It's YouTube/Milnor, I believe. or Twitch at twitch.tv/Milnor. I'm going to contribute to the Tech Pirate in some point this year. I just don't know when or on what, but at some point I will. Yeah, Brandon.
I'm Brandon Vader, also known as Dracanis, Captain Drac, or... Yeah, that's it.
No, you are also Dracanis the Red, Dracanis the Medic on Battlefield 2142.
Oh, God.
Good sir.
Drac_Vader.
Yeah, okay.
Dracful.
Well, at least most of those are Dracanis or Drac.
Drakish.
Yeah, I was B Vader GVT up until 2 days ago when I finally changed my Xbox Live name. And that's the Captain Drac. But yeah, you can find me on thetechpirate.net where I need to contribute more. I don't think I've contributed yet this year to my own
Website? Whatever.
Site?
It's fine. It's fine.
But yeah, I will get better on that. I will work on that as things start calming down for me. Yeah, YouTube is the Tech Pirate, which I need to do more of that. I need to do the final review for my Surface Go, which I approve. I like it. And yeah, that's me in a nutshell. So thanks for joining us on this episode of This Week I'm Learning. You can find us...
A nutshell, but not a ball sack. Got it. I got Colton at least. Got him.
Son of a bitch.
I was like, we got so far. We almost did the outro without it.
Almost did it.
Yet
Almost
it
did
doesn't even matter.
no, and it wasn't
out of it.
even me.
It wasn't.
I'm gonna make you pay for it.
Well, that's okay. I hope you accept Dust Coin, Moat Coin.
No, except Doge. Thank you.
To the moon, baby.
No Doge for you. Unless you want the Doge that is sleeping on my bed behind me.
No, Ziva's nice, but no. Thank you.
In the Mercury Star Runner.
Yeah. Where was I at in that? Thanks. I'll just start again. Screw it. Thanks for joining us on this episode of This Week I'm Learning. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts, as well as on YouTube at This Week I'm Learning. For your social media peeps out there, you can find us at Twitter at ThisTWIL. If you'd like to contact us, of course, you can send an email to twil@thetechfire.net. We'll see you all next weekend.
Bye. Don't be a dick.
Bye-bye. Don't be a dick. .com, .org, .net, .biz, .xxx, .tech,
Thanks.
Go. Nah, fucking hell.
All the domains.
All right. This is me vowing to not bring up the ball sack next week.
We got our dick or our ball.
Yeah,
jokes out.
otherwise what's going to
Here's
happen
my promise.
is Brandon.
I make no such promise.
Brandon's going to sound like he's spouting off, like, reluctantly the safety procedure, you know, in an airline when they're about to take off, but they got to go through it really quick.
In the unlikely event that your plane ride becomes a cruise, your stewardess can be used as a flotation device.
You're mostly water anyways, and Harry, you'll be fine in the water.
I still like when they said that between Gunnison and Denver. Extremely
there are
unlikely.
2 bodies of water that could happen, but you're gonna die.
They would have
Extremely
to aim
unlikely.
for them.
Yeah, there's a lot of lakes in Denver. Cherry Creek Reservoir is on the flight path. You could land in Cherry Creek Reservoir. You wouldn't want to, but you could.
Yeah.
Zebra mussels.
Speaking of flying in Denver, you also may not want to live in Broomfield because you might take 777 engine parts to the fucking front doors.
Yeah. So
Okay,
Yeah,
who else
it's pretty
thought Donnie
goddamn-
Darko?
Oh,
Who
yeah.
else thought
seen
Donnie
Yeah,
Darko on
it
that?
crossed
Yeah,
my
I did.
mind. It crossed my mind.
That
I
Fucking
love that there's
ridiculous.
video. I've actually watched the so there's a YouTube channel called Vasa Aviation, and it literally overlays radar of flight and overlays the voice transmissions between the cockpit and approach, departure, and all of the different tower channels. And you can listen to the emergency audio, and it's basically, we lost an engine, declaring emergency, mayday, mayday, mayday. I need left-hand turns and approach the airport. I need to run checklists. It's like, oh, he wasn't calm. He was like, we need this now.
Half our engines
Yeah.
are down. We gotta go.
He was not going to land in the Hudson calmly like someone we know.
or
Would have
Cherry
been impressive. That would have been more impressive if it was able to land in the Hudson from Denver.
on
with one engine.
On, a
On one
777.
engine.
Yeah. Yeah, that would
on an
that would
engine
be-
on an engine that was like shaking. This is half connected. What a mess.
So I'm impressed that they got video from inside the cabin at it. I see video from the ground with high quality zoomed in from below. It's
Pretty
yeah,
impressive.
It's
I
very,
very
gotta watch the
impressive.
video. I actually have not watched any of the video on that.
Yeah, there's a lot of
I will
cool
link,
footage.
I will link Vasa in the production channel.
Yeah,
Yes,
I
please.
saw the image, but that was it. And
Pretty
so did
wild.
everybody.
Yeah.
I assume that was a successful landing, but they did.
Oh
not.
yeah, that
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
fantastic,
Cool.
fantastic.
A lot of images of engine parts near houses.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard there was
Yep.
a debris field from it.
There were also quite a few Facebook Marketplace postings for engine cowlings for $9,999. You know, it was fantastic.